What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, future Hall of Famer, Mexican superstar boxer, first ballot Hall of Famer, 4-division world champion, undisputed super middleweight, on the verge of being a 2-time undisputed super middleweight world champion, Saul Canelo Alvarez, 62 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, 39 big wins by way of knockout. Canelo Alvarez is at it again, trying to justify with his diabolical statement why he never fought the Mexican Ecuadorian monster, 2-time WBC super middleweight world champion, undefeated light heavyweight superstar title contender, David Benavidez, who has 30 wins, no loss, no draw, 24 wins by way of knockout. He's 28 years of age, 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach. And Canelo Alvarez, once again, is stating that he never fought David Benavidez because 2 things. David Benavidez has done nothing in his career at 168 or in boxing. And then he ducked him and moved up in weight. What? This is so diabolical on so many levels. Just to give you a time frame. David Benavidez beat Ronald Graville for the WBC title. David Benavidez got stripped of his WBC title after testing positive for drugs use. The World Boxing Council, better known as the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman and Board of 32 members decided to strip him because of his drug use, recreational drug use. Okay, back in 2018. In 2019, he came back in March. He beat Jalen Love, knocked him out in the second round. Then he fought then WBC super middleweight world champion, who picked up the belt after Benavidez vacated it, Anthony Dirrell, superstar boxer, with a record of 33 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. He knocks out Anthony Dirrell in the 9th round. Then we go through a global pandemic to which David Benavidez misses weight on a scale while all things were suspended. Social distancing, the whole world was dealing with a global pandemic. There was social distancing, businesses was closing, nowhere to train, and David Benavidez was one of the first sporting events to come back without any fans in attendance because of social distancing. And he took on Alexis Angulo, and he got stripped of his WBC title once again in August of 2020. Right? He beat Angulo with a 10th round knockout, beat Ronald Ellis in March of 2021 at an 11th round knockout, then beat Kyron Davis, 7th round knockout. Then he beat David Lemieux, 3rd round knockout. But here's where it gets truly interesting. Because keep in mind, Canelo Alvarez decided to make his debut in 2020 once David Benavidez was stripped of his WBC title once again when he took on Caleb Smith, the WBA super middleweight undefeated British superstar world champion. Not to mention, Canelo Alvarez had beat Danny Jacobs at 160. Instead of fighting David Benavidez at 168, he jumped over 168, went to 175, and beat Sergey Kovalev for the WBO title. David Benavidez gets stripped of the title. Canelo Alvarez come back down to 168. Petitions to fight for the vacant WBC title that was stripped of David Benavidez and to unify the belts against Caleb Smith. First, he tried to do it against Avni Yildirim, and it was denied. So he had to do it against Caleb Smith. He beats Caleb Smith. He defends the title against Avni Yildirim, right? In the meantime, David Benavidez comes back down. He beats David Lemieux, okay, via 3rd round knockout. And now he's back in position as the WBC mandatory challenger, right? Canelo Alvarez goes on to unify the belts. Understood. He beats Billy Joe Saunders for the WBO title. Then he fights Caleb Plant and beats him for the IBF and undisputed titles in November, becoming undisputed in under a calendar year. Okay? Caleb Plant then fights David Benavidez, okay? After he knocks out Anthony Durrell in the 9th round, brutal knockout. Comeback fight after being knocked out by Canelo Alvarez. In October 2022, he fights Benavidez in 2023. Benavidez wins a unanimous decision. Many people thought he should have gotten a knockout victory. Now, keep in mind, in this time frame, Canelo Alvarez has a mandatory by the name of David Benavidez. Okay? He's not honoring this mandatory position. He then, after beating Caleb Plant, he himself has a mandatory in David Benavidez. He goes up to 175 once again and attempts to beat the undefeated Russian superstar boxer, who was the WBA light heavyweight champion, Dmitry Bivol. He loses a unanimous decision. He comes back down. That was May of 2022. He comes back down in September 2022 to do the trilogy with Gennady Triple G Golovkin. Okay, that was in his contract with DAZN. Now, May of 2023. Okay, now we in May of 2023, right? And it's only right now that he fights David Benavidez, right? We're in May of 2023 now. I need you guys to follow me, right? After Caleb Plant had, David Benavidez beats Caleb Plant, right? No. He fights John Ryder. Okay. After John Ryder, there's no doubt you're going to fight David Benavidez, correct? Right? It's only right. Now he's going to fight David Benavidez, right? After John Ryder. Okay? No. He fights Jermell Charlo in September of 2023. So what does David Benavidez do? He fights Demetrius Boo Boo Andre, a guy Canelo avoided at 160 pounds for undisputed after he beat Danny Jacobs. He jumped 15 pounds to fight Sergey Kovalev instead of fighting Demetrius Andre for undisputed, after saying he wanted to be the first Mexican undisputed world champion in history of the sport of boxing. So David Benavidez fights Demetrius Andre and knocks out Demetrius Andre. So it's only right now that Canelo, after beating Jermell Charlo, fights David Benavidez, right? Wrong. He goes on to fight who? Jaime Munguia. You heard what I said. He goes on now to fight Jaime Munguia, okay, in May of 2024. Instead of fighting who? David Benavidez. So in May of 2024, he fights Jaime Munguia. David Benavidez is growing tired of chasing him. Okay? He didn't get chosen. He beat Andre in November of 2023. You would think he would choose David Benavidez, who's his mandatory. No, he chose Jaime Munguia. David Benavidez goes to 175 now in June of 2024 and beats Oleksandr Gavzik. Now Canelo Alvarez is saying that David Benavidez left the division. David Benavidez has had 2 fights at 175. Canelo has 2 fights at 175. So how did he duck Canelo Alvarez to go to 175? They both have the same amount of fights at 175. He was your mandatory for years now. And then he says that David Benavidez hasn't done anything. Okay, well, he beats David Lemieux, Caleb Plant, Demetrius Andre, Oleksandr Gavzik, and David Morrell. And he's a 2-time WBC super middleweight champion. And he knocked out Anthony Durrell and Ronald Graville. Right? So Canelo is saying he's done nothing. Question: what has Avni Yildirim done in his career? Did Billy Joe Saunders accomplish more than David Benavidez because he beat Chris Eubanks Jr.? That's the only notable win on his record. Until he beat Caleb Plant, Canelo Alvarez. Caleb Plant's biggest win until Caleb Plant beat Anthony Durrell was Jose Uzcategui. One big win. What did John Ryder accomplish in his career when you fought him? He had 32 wins and 5 losses. Jaime Munguia accomplished more than David Benavidez? He's a one-division champion. Who did Jaime Munguia beat in his career? You gave him an opportunity. Edgar Berlanga, you gave him an opportunity. Who did he beat in his career? You have the same amount of fights as David Benavidez at 175, yet you giving all these guys opportunities and you saying David Benavidez did nothing. It's better to just say you don't like the style matchup. It doesn't favor you. Too big, too active, too athletic, too explosive, and you don't like the style matchup. Period. It's just nasty work. I respect the fact that you're being forced to fight Terrence Crawford. You don't want that fight. You got it on cruise control. It's nasty work. So to say David Benavidez has done nothing and then ducked you by leaving the division, it's nasty work. You both have the same amount of fights at 175. He's just 2-0 and you're 1-1. You fought Dmitry Bivol, who all his fights at 175, and Sergey Kovalev. You fought John Ryder. What did he do? You fought Avni Yildirim. What did he do? Did they accomplish more than David Benavidez? Billy Joe Saunders? Did he accomplish more than David Benavidez? Caleb Plant, who beat Jose Uzcategui, and then Anthony Durrell. David Benavidez beat Caleb Plant and Anthony Durrell, and then Demetrius Andrade, and Oleksandr Gazdik, and David Morrell, and Ronald Graville. So to say he's done nothing, he's a 2-time world champion. How many titles did John Ryder win? How many titles did Avni Yildirim win? How many titles did Edgar Berlanga win? That's right, none. Edgar Berlanga hadn't even fought for a title until he fought Canelo Alvarez. Make it make sense. This is diabolical. Just say you don't like the style matchup. Period. And that's all I got for y'all. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. We know you asked for $200 million to fight that man. Nasty work. I'm gone. Peace.